Kuf Lamed Hey Amid Beis. This Igeres HaKedesh talks about talking in shul. Chav Daled talks about talking in davening. That's the Igeres HaKedesh that's associated with Simchas Torah and Motor Simchas Torah. This Igeres HaKedesh is not talking about davening, talking about being in shul. When you're in a place where 10 Yidden are gathered, even if it's between Mincha L'Maydev or Stam Hazeh, you have to be aware of the way you behave because the Shekhinah is present. So the Alter Rebbe says like this. It's a very interesting Igeres HaKedesh with a very interesting message and a very interesting hira. B'gzeiras Eden Pisgam. By the decrees of the angels who make speeches, make pisgamim. Eden means malachim. As well as statements made by the holy ones who are the chachmei hamishna. In other words, aside from the malachim, aside from the neshamas, sheshanu b'mishnasim, that all of them learned in their mishnah is as follows. By the way, Gzeiras Eden Pisgam is lashon pasuk, I think, in the Nil. The Mishnah says, when 10 Jewish people sit and study Torah, the Shekhinah rests amongst them. This is the entire purpose of a person. Va'af kamzeis, moreover, this is hoisa kol yiridasa be'elamazeh. The entire reason for which is neshama descended into this world is letzeirach aliyah zuas, for the sake of this ascent, which is achieved by getting together and learning Torah. Asher ein aliyah l'maylei mena. There's no ascent greater than the ascent which is associated with the Asara Sheishim Reiskim B'Torah. Ki shchinas uzeh shabagavim ereimim. Because the Shekhinah, the resting presence of the Eibishter, of His strength, which is in the heights of the heavens, v'ashamayim, ashmei hashamayim, in the heavens and the heavens of the heavens, lo yechalkalu masa, cannot tolerate the awe of the Eibishter, and yet Tishkein v'tizgada will manifest and give greatness, or be great, b'teich b'nei Yisrael, amongst the Jewish people, as the pasuk says, Kani havaya, I am the Eibishter, which is sheichem b'teich b'nei Yisrael, the rest amongst the Jewish people, by learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, ba'asara dafke, with a minyan dafke. So when 10 Yidden dafke, daven, I suppose you would say that there's two in Yadam. Side, this is the epitome of Dira B'Tachtenim, and side, this is the epitome of Yerid Tzedach Aliyah. Because the godliness which we bring down, and the elevation we affect in ourselves, is such that the Malachim can't tolerate it, and Shemayim, Shmei Shemayim can't tolerate it either, and yet it's found by us when we do Yiddishkeit, especially Torah, B'tzibur, with a minyan. The Gemara says, Asya teich teich v'chuli, that we learn the idea of teich from the Meraglim. The teich, the Eida is a minyan, and that whenever you have 10 Yidden, there's a presence of the Shekhinah. This is the pshat in the pasuk, that inside every Jew there's kedusha, there's holiness. In other words, there's godliness. You can't have this holiness, but pachas me'asara, less than 10 people, right? And by the way, over here, when you read about 10, it doesn't necessarily have to be like 10 men before after bar mitzvah. 10 neshamas, 10 neshamas. And therefore also itzrachu lerazal. The Chazal had to bring lemelef mikra to bring it out from a pasuk. Even when one Jew learns Torah, the Shekhinah is present. Because the Iker presence of the Shekhinah is when you have 10. And fewer than 10 needs a separate pasuk to prove it. What is Lashon HaMishnah? Sara she'eishim be'eskim Torah Shekhinah shrei b'neim shene'amar. No. Elikim nitza ba'adas keil. That an Eida is a Sara, and we learn. So we learn a pasuk, 10 Jewish people sit the Shekhinah rests. You don't learn 20, you don't learn 50 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, just 10. More than you don't have. L'cheira it doesn't mean more. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya Sof Perikir Aleph, 10 Rishayim Gemurim, Asar Shechinta Shari Eliyelim, and 10 Rishayim Gemurim bepashtus. 10 Rishayim Gemurim, the Shekhinah is present. Stam. And the 10 Rishayim Gemurim, you have to assume that the Shekhinah of Meridin V'lei Mailin. Meridin V'lei Mailin is not kosher for a minyan, not kosher for anything. The Mumma B'chal Teira Kula. And yet there's the presence of the Shekhinah. No? So it's not 10 kosher to Yidden, it's 10 Jews, 10 souls. But of course this is a Pnimis Dik'inyan. Halacha is a little different. So why do you have to bring psukim that even one? Because there's a difference between the inyan of the Shekhinah by 10 and the Shekhinah by less than 10. And he explains, V'avkam zeis, moreover, le'motzah le'smach min ha'mikra, the psukim that are brought for the manifestation of the presence of the Shekhinah by less than 10 is not that the Shekhinah is resting, the fixing of a schar. In other words, the Alter Rebbe is a very big chiddush. This is not the Eibishter giving you a reward. This is the Eibishter joining you. 10 Jews get together and they learn Torah, the Eibishter joins them. So the Alter Rebbe says, the presence of the Shekhinah by 10 is to show up. The presence of the Shekhinah by 5, by 3, by 2, and by 1 is a schar. And Alter Rebbe is going to make a deal and say that when you have 10 and the Shekhinah comes, that's the whole Shekhinah. Because the Shekhinah is not coming for you, the Shekhinah is coming for itself. Less than 10, the Shekhinah is coming out schar, so it's not the whole Shekhinah, it's as much as you could receive. So although when you read the Mishnah by Pashtus, it sounds like it's saying the same thing again and again, 10, 5, 3, 2, 1, so Alter Rebbe, there's a very big difference. Because by 10, the inyan of the presence of the Shekhinah is Pashat, what's called in Chassidus, Hashra, the whole truth of Hashem is manifest. Like it says in the Ger Zakeh Shchav Hey, which you have later in the month of Tishrei. Huh? Right. But the Atmos of the Hashra, not the Slapshus.
That's coming inside. There's 10 people there, so the Eibishter is there. But less than that, it's coming because of the person.
Because of what he's doing. Because of what he's doing. That's right. No, learning Torah. By 10, you'll see soon. The Pashtus, it means 10 learning Torah. Alter Rebbe is going to prove differently in a moment. Okay? So why do you have to prove less than 10? Because there's a special mila in 10. Less than 10 needs a special proof, and moreover, it's only schar bavad, liyachid, lefiyerach, to each individual according to his level, or lefiyerach hamarubim according to the numbers. Aval inyan ashras kedushas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in as much as the manifestation of the holiness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that in davar shebekdusha pachas ma'asara, the idea that a yid could achieve holiness, and le'erach eleim klai can't compare it whatsoever. Because by 10 there's infin ashras hashchina, v'hafresh. Oh, stop! That's the end of the shir of Yudzayin. Tishrei. So the Alter Rebbe begins by saying that the greatest presence of Elokus comes down when 10 Yidden are learning. It's more than the Elmas Hayenim can handle. And therefore it's the epitome of Yidid B'Tachteinim, and the Ikir is the epitome of the Yidid Tzedek Aliyah. It speaks about the Shekhinah being present by less than 10, that's an Iyah from Kviyas Schar.